And we're back. Okay, so as a quick reminder, this is part 2 of the vending machine construction. This should be the last part. And this is where we're headed. There's a vending machine that looks like this. And here's where we left off. There's a vending machine that looks like this. It's more like a helmet, but I promise it'll look less halo-y and more vending machine-y as we go. So let's get started. If you remember last time, we did separate a couple of parts. So we might as well get started with those. Let's start with the glass. And really all we need to do with the glass is make sure that it's covering all the holes it's supposed to, and give it some thickness. So, first thing I'm going to do is just get rid of the edge loops that we don't need. Just dissolve those edges right out of there. It does have a mirror modifier on it, which it inherited from the body object that we separated it from. But we do have to create this taper. So actually, I'm going to add that edge loop right back in, because I actually do want that, because that'll help me define that. I'm going to grab this edge loop and move it down. I'll grab this edge loop, and I'm just going to move it in across on the x-axis. And that's probably, grab this bottom vertex, GX, it'll snap it. Line. Look at the side here. You can see that it does intersect the mesh, but you're never going to see that, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. If you wanted to be particular about it, you just add an edge loop in right here, and then grab this vertex and just slide it back. And I'll grab all these back vertices, just move them back along the y-axis. I guess we might as well do the same at the bottom here. Slide that up. Slide these back. Okay, so that covers the area effectively. See, this is actually poking through. Don't want that. So I guess we will add some edge loops back after all. Okay. So there's that. Now what we need to do is make sure it's fitting in the channel. So first I'm going to move it back. We'll do this in edit mode. I'm going to hit G and Y, move it back so it starts. There's the channel. So I'm looking right here. Okay. Right as it stops clipping with the mesh. Looks like right about there. And then in the Y direction as well. You can kind of see it in the wireframe. There's a channel right here. So GY, oops, GX, right about there. You can always poke your head around on the inside and just make sure that that's where it's supposed to be. It looks like we actually need to go back a little bit further with all of these vertices. GY. Good. And I think it needs to move down a little bit. Or at least these ones do. GZ. Okay. That will work. It does bother me that this isn't even in the front here. It's wrong button. So maybe we'll move this one down a little bit too, just to even that up. Same thing on the side. We'll move this one forward, kind of even that up. Okay. So let's Go into face mode, select everything, hit E to extrude, right click to keep it in the same space. I'm going to orbit my view around the back side here. I get a good look at the channel right here. I'm going to hit Alt S, scale along the normals. Doesn't have to go back far. Set offset even, and we can hold down Shift and click and drag. Some really fine-tune adjustment there. Okay, let's see. That did not go very far at all. I'd like that to be a little bit thicker. So I'm going to undo a few times. Try that again. Okay, it looks like when I moved it back, it looks like I shouldn't have moved that back. Alright, so we'll select those faces. That back forward. Sorry, move it forward, not back forward. Move it forward. And then we're getting some intersection here. I don't think we're really going to see that. I suppose we can go back just a smidge. I can grab this edge and move that back a little bit too. Okay, that will work. Now I can select all the faces, hit E to extrude, right click to keep it in the same spot, then Alt S, scale it along the normals, and now I've got some room to scale it back. So go about there, 0.008 seems to be a good number. And now we can look at local view, and now that glass has some thickness. Lovely. And that's all I'm going to do for that. So I'm going to number pad slash to get out of local view, and we'll just hide that for now. Now let's look at this door. You can see we made some changes to the mesh since we separated the door, but the door is a really simple object, so I'm not really worried about it. Go ahead, edit mode here, and these vertices, I'm just going to bring these down a little bit. I'm going to E to extrude it up, hit Z to lock it to that direction, and I'm going to hit G, X to bring that in. Now in solid view, you see there's a little bit of gap that I'm keeping here. That's good. I want there to be a gap. Same thing here, GX. That. And why not the bottom too? Okay. Got that sorted. I'm going to add in edge loop somewhere around here. And then I'm going to, with that edge still selected, I'm going to hit V. And it's going to rip that edge in half, rip it apart. So I'm going to right click to keep it in the same spot, and then G, Z, and just move it down a little bit. Good. Now we can select all of the faces. I'm going to first move it back about there. Then I'm going to E to extrude, Y. Okay, it doesn't want to go in the Y direction. So GY. Lock it in right there. That looks good. Something is going on over here. Oh, that's just the mirror modifier. That's all. Okay. So we've got that. Now we can jump into object mode, hit Control 2 to add in our subsurface modifier. Right click shade smooth, go back into edit mode, and add in our control loops. So we'll add this one first, hit E to keep it even. And we'll do a similar one at the bottom here. I'm also going to turn off subdivision in edit mode. Snap that right there so those are even. Up at the top here. At the bottom. Oops, wrong direction. Here. Down here. I'm going to go into local view real quick so I can see this outside edge. I'll add in 2 edge loops, and that's good. with the exception of this corner here. That's right, we need to sharpen up this corner. So same deal. Nothing new there. Now we get out of local view. We have our doors. I do, however, want to separate this, so I'm going to hover my mouse, deselect everything, so just click away or double tap A. Hover my mouse over the lower section, hit L to select everything that is linked to that. P to separate that by selection. Tab into object mode, and then I can rename this to door underscore lower. Okay, so we've got the doors, we've got the glass done. Let's see what's next. Okay, so now, if we look at this, I think we'll do the top and the bottom. And once we do the top, then the bottom is very easy, as are all of these shelves. They all kind of go hand in hand. So I'm going to hit 7 to go in top view. And Shift A, add in a cube in object mode. I'm going to hit M to move that to my vending machine collection. I guess my selection changed, so I'll make sure I select that that collection so that becomes my default. I'm going to rename this, and we're going to call this VM underscore top. Okay. And tab into edit mode, scale it in the Z-axis to a good thickness for the top. I'm going to move it up. And I'm going to have this sitting kind of just underneath. It's going to give some variation in the surface detail. Okay. Yeah, I think that's going to work. I'm looking at the thickness that I have of everything and making sure that it feels appropriate for everything else that's there. And it does. So now scale it along the x-axis. I'm going to add in a mirror modifier to this. And right now I've been doing all of my transforms symmetrically. So if I add an edge loop and right click to keep it in the center, it stays in the center. I can select these vertices, hit X, and delete them. Add in my mirror modifier and turn on clipping. If for whatever reason your object wasn't exactly centered, at this point it should be. And you can just select the center vertices, GX. Move it back and forth, and it'll snap into the center. Okay, so now we can scale the Y direction. All right, now what I want to do is I want to snap the edges exactly to the inside surface. What that's going to do is when I start smoothing it, it's going to give a little bit of a kind of subtle seam. So the roundness of the corner is going to give a nice seam around the edge. So I will select in wireframe, we'll select the front vertices. We'll make sure we get all of them. And then I'm going to hit G, Y, and hover my mouse over this back edge, hold down Control, and just make sure that it snaps right there. Looks good. And we'll do the same thing for the side. And we'll go GX and find a vertex there. Looks like that's snapping pretty good right there. Okay. And it looks like we need to also move the back up because of this little cutout here. So again, we'll go G, Y, hold down Control, snap that in. Okay. Now we just need to add this taper right here. So I will add in, doesn't really matter which way we add the edge loop. I'm just thinking ahead, we're going to reuse this piece for the inside shelves. And those shelves have this U cutout. But I'm going to need edge loops in both directions, so it doesn't really matter which way that I add this edge loop. But I'll add it this way. I'll go to top view to make sure that I can see I'm adding it exactly where I want it. Okay. Then I will grab these vertices and move them back in the X direction. Okay. So now that I have that, and this may be a little thick, so I'll grab the bottom faces and just G, Z, move them up a little bit. Okay. So now that I have that in object mode, Control-2 to add in a subsurface modifier, shade smooth, and then we can add our control loops. So something like that. And like that. On the side here. Good. Here we go. 2 here. And then let's hit the S and Z, scale them apart vertically. Okay, it looks like we need a couple right here. So I'll just select this edge loop, Control-Shift-R to offset edge slide. Hit E to keep it even. And right about there. Okay. So there's our top. Like I said, we've got this little kind of channel running right here that just gives it a little bit of kind of visual interest and variation. Makes it feel like a real constructed thing and not just some polygons smashed together. All right, so we've got that. I'm going to Shift D to duplicate it, and in edit mode, select it, G, Z, move it down, and this is going to be our bottom as well. I'm going to rename this VM bottom. Okay. And now we can figure out our placement. So I'll start with the vertical placement. I'll also say I moved this in edit mode so that the origin stayed in the same point. If I move it in object mode, the origin moves with it. So moved it in edit mode. It's obviously easy to reset the origin, but just for now, I like to keep that in that way. Oh, also, looks like we missed a edge loop on the inside here. You can see this ugly shading, so I'm just gonna... Oh yes, that's right, because we have this n-gon here, because that edge loop didn't go all the way through. So we're gonna hit K. I'll just cut that to there. And then I can add... Oh no, that's all we needed. Cool. Yep. All right, back to the bottom. First I'm gonna make sure we got the height where I want it. Something like that. I don't know if you're ever gonna see it, so I'm not gonna put a whole lot of time into it, but I'll keep a little bit of lip there. And then we need to grab these vertices. Grab the vertex. Okay, and we just need to slide them back in the Y direction that it fits. Wireframe. And I think I'll just eyeball this one. G, Y, and then we know when that vertex disappears, it's going through the wall, so hold down Shift and just slide it back ever so slightly. That's good. Let's double check over here, make sure that that's good. And it is. Okay, and there's our bottom done. Now we have the shelves to figure out. So I'm going to select this, Shift D to duplicate it, Z to move it up in the Z direction. And let's take a look and figure out where our shelves are going to go. Actually, let's look at the reference. So here's the reference. We've got one shelf kind of just above the bottom rim, one kind of at the taper, the other one's roughly at the taper as well, right at that kind of corner here. So 1, 2, and then the bottom one will be down there somewhere. Okay, so we will start with the bottom one and work our way up. We'll go somewhere like there works for me. And for this, I'm going to turn the glass back on. We'll kind of look at this from the inside. I just want to make sure it's not intersecting the glass. I'm okay with a little bit of a gap. But I don't want it intersecting the glass. Okay, so I'm actually pretty happy with that location. But we have that big U cutout that we need. So let's add that in. So we're going to define the area first. And I think maybe like that will work for me. And then one more back here. I'm going to hit E to keep it even. The back side. And something like that should work. Actually, I'm going to slide it forward a little bit. Again, E to keep it even with the back so it stays flat. I'm going to add a second edge loop in here. Just to stay with the theme of these bevels, because nothing says futuristic like bevels. I'll add that in, and then I can grab the top, grab these vertices, and move them in to create that bevel. Yeah, that should work. Okay. So now we can select these faces and delete those. Select those faces and delete them. Got faces in the front here we can delete. And now we can bridge. Select those two, hit F. Select this one, F, 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 and I think that one already had it. Ah, yes, there is one issue with that. So let me grab that last one, delete that face. We've got these two edges here and here. We need to carry those through. So we'll add our two edge loops, scale it along the Z to line that up. If you want to be exact, you can select them individually, double tap G to slide them, hold down Control, and you can snap to that vertex. And then we can fill that in. There we go. That's looking nicer. And now we just need to add our control loops. So we'll add one in right there, one right there, right there, even, keep it right there. And we need to add in here and here. Okay, so we got a little bit of an issue right here. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to undo those loops for now. Let's try something. Oops. I undid too far. Let me refill this face back in. Okay. So let's try if we get rid of those edges for a second. And I'm going to get rid of this edge, and this edge, and this edge. So all of the control loops that we added, I'm going to dissolve them. I'm not going to worry about the bottom, because if this works, then I'm just going to delete the bottom and re-extrude it, and it'll be faster that way. But I'm going to select all of these faces and inset them. That should work. I think I like that a little bit better. It's going to keep this edge sharper. Okay, so I'm going to go into wireframe in front, and I'm just going to select all of the bottom vertices, X, and delete them. There we go. Yeah. And I'll select everything, re-extrude it down in the Z direction. Doesn't have to be quite as thick as it was before. I'll just add one edge loop in the center there. That'll keep that sharp enough. Then we can go back in and add the rest of our control loops. So one here, one here. These are really more for the corner. Kind of orbit the camera in there. This one actually, see, this just keeps that corner sharp. A little bit of intersecting, but I'm not worried about it because nobody's ever going to see that. Except for you. We can add our edge loops in here. Oops. Zoom in a little bit so we can see that a little bit better. Edge loop here, and E to keep it even, F to flip it down to here. Here, E to keep it even. Keep it even. Okay. Probably not the best of edge flow. Seems a little bit excessive. Miss one? There we go. That looks good. Now, this isn't exactly super clean and even, so I think what I might do, look in here, I'm going to merge those vertices, and then I'm going to go into local views just so we're not fighting with the rest of it. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to merge these vertices at last, selecting that middle one last. I can merge it last. I'm going to edge mode, and I can dissolve those edges. Whoa. X dissolve, not delete, dissolve the edges. There we go. Okay, and I can do that here as well. Merge it last. Merge it last. Select the outside edges there. We also want to grab this one. We don't have triangles, it'll be a quad that way. Over there. That one. And that one. X dissolve edges. Okay, that's already cleaner. Down here. This is a bit of a mess. Merge that at last. And I don't have a corner on the other side, so I'm not going to merge there. I'm going to flip it over to the back side, and I will merge it here. And I can grab this edge, two outside edges. I'll flip it back over to the top side. This one, and dissolve those edges. Okay. Ooh, what's going on here? Oh, it's a convex. I might actually keep that triangle in there. This is one instance where triangle is going to help. Yeah, just because I was trying to fill a quad and have that indent, so that would have not worked there. Okay. And then probably the same thing here. Let's see if we can't clean this up anymore. We just want this going to one vertex. See if we can merge it all the way here. Yeah. That works a lot better. Love that edge. Oh, but we're going to get that same thing. So I'm going to leave that edge there, but I am going to get rid of... I do it on the underside as well. Okay, now we can get rid of these two edges. Yep. Okay, so we're getting rid of those two edges, X, dissolve edges. And that's just a much cleaner look. You can see I need to do that on this side as well. Did it on the top, underside. I realized I merged on the top one. I didn't really need to. Let's reconnect those with J. And we can get rid of those. Same thing here. I'm going to reconnect these with J. And grab these outside edges. X and dissolve. Okay. So that was maybe a little bit more work than you might have been expecting for such a simple piece. But I think it works. Okay. Again, this. Yeah, no, that works. Okay. Not going to worry too much more about it. Now we can duplicate this. So we'll get out of local view. And Shift D, move it up. Z direction. We'll go a little bit past the taper line. Something like that. And I'll select both of these objects, go to local view. Oops. There we go. Go to local view. And then we just have to grab all these vertices and just move them forward so that they get close to the glass. So G, Y, pull it just off the glass. Not going to worry about tapering it to the shape of the glass. That's going to be good enough. That works. Okay. And then Shift D, Z. And let's get on the front. And let's go down. This one will be... Yeah, it's enough space between the two. That looks good, so we'll tab in edit mode. I still have the selection saved. Move it in the Y direction. That looks pretty good. Now, this corner here looks like that needs a little bit of extra attention. That back to right about there. Okay. Cool. So there's our shelves. Get out of local view. I'll select the shelves so we can see it through there. And yeah, I'm going to call that good for the shelves. I do need to rename these though, so I'm actually going to select all three, and then if I hit F3, there is a batch rename functionality in Blender. So edit batch rename, and I'm going to find bottom, and I'm going to replace with shelf. And then I hit, and just want to make sure it's set to selected objects, and click OK. And now it's renamed to shelf. Perfect. All right, so that's that. What else do we need to do here? Looks like we've got this bottom pedestal, we've got this keyboard, and then we've got this little indent, which we'll save for last, I think. So at this point, you can probably figure out the rest of it. I'm going to save the this bottom pedestal until it's on the wall. Let's do the keyboard. Keyboard's an interesting little shape here. So we'll go back over here, and I've got my cursor still centered, so Shift-C if it isn't already on the top view here, and Shift-A, add in a cube. Okay, I'm going to immediately name it VM underscore, we'll call it screen, because I'm intending that most of it will be a screen with a keypad attached to it. Okay, so this is the screen, and then there's a keypad with it. All right. So we can go into edit mode, and let's scale it down. We'll move it out into roughly keyboard shape. Obviously that needs to change. Shrink that down, add Z a little bit more. Okay. That's looking pretty good. Let's just scale it completely. Okay, that'll work. Okay. Again, I'm going to keep with the tapered look. So we've got a taper and we've got indents. So let's go ahead and make those. To do that, I'm just going to select the corner edges. If you're in edge mode, I think it's Control-Shift-Click? No. There's a key command. There it is. It's Control-Alt-Click. And that'll select, let me go into wireframe so you can see this. Control-Alt-Click will select the edge ring. So I'm in face mode. Alt-Click will select the face loop. Or in edge mode, I don't really have an edge loop here that it'll select. Like if I add an edge loop, okay, Alt-Click will select that loop. But if I Control-Alt-Click, it'll select the ring. So going around the other way, which can be handy for certain situations like this one. So Control-Alt-Click, got that selected. And now we're going to Control-B and bevel that. I don't want to add any additional edge loops. I'm just going to keep it at the default 0 there. And we'll go right to about there. Looks good. Yeah. That works for me. And now we need to... I'm not going to work with a mirror modifier on this. Because I don't want the underside to have the same loop that this is going to have. Though I guess we do need to add in our cuts first. Right, so we have this loop here, but the underside does not have that. So let's... Okay. So I'm going to add in... Actually, just going to... Let's see. Yeah, we're going to vertex. Select these. J to join those. Add in... Let's see. J, and we'll join those as well. And then we'll knife... Actually, we don't have to knife. We can J as well. So select these two and J, and select those two, and J to join those. We do the same thing on the underside. Select those two and join. Like these, not that one. These two and join. You can add a mirror modifier and just do this on 1/2. But I only need the mirror modifier very briefly, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. Okay, now we can add an edge loop in the center there. I'm going to select these edges here. And I'll get rid of these. Um, mess that up. Yeah, I don't. Oops. Oh, because I want to keep that edge. Yeah, that's what it is. All right, it's remembering what I did before. So now you're not just sitting there, waiting for me to think about it and then act. These videos are long enough as it is without having to wait for me to think on what to do next. All right, so we'll dissolve those edges, and now we have all quads. That's what I was after. Okay, so we got all quads. Now on the top, only on the top, I'll select these faces, and we will inset them. So whatever we want that border to be, that looks pretty good to me. And I'm going to snap these vertices into place. G, X. Snap that there. Okay, so we've got that, and now we can again select those same faces. Whoops, not those. When you have circle select, it's middle click and drag to deselect. Just as a reminder there. So E to extrude, Z in the Z direction. Just give that a little bit of a lip. Okay. So we got that lip there. Now we can define these two main shapes. So to do that, on the top view here, and I'm going to add in first 2 edge loops, and I'm going to scale them out in the X direction, and then individually SX0, I'm going to scale them to 0 to flatten them out. I do that so that I can add in a bunch of edge loops and keep things nice and even. Let's add in, 5 should be good. Okay. So now I need to lay out where I want the screen to be. So I think we'll go like here. And then I hit E to keep it even, so it stays flat. Something down here. Okay, so that works. So I can now take these, and this is going to be hit E to extrude and just move it down a little bit. Yep. There's the screen. And now let's do the same thing with the keypad. It looks like I kept everything the same size. There's no reason to change that up, but we'll do here to here. Maybe I'll move this over a little bit. Okay, that works. And I'm going to select these and extrude it down just a little bit. We can actually snap it to there so it's the same depth. And then I'm going to hit P, and I'm going to separate that by selection. And we'll just rename that right away. VM underscore keypad. Okay, we'll come back to that. I'm going to hide it for now. Actually, we can keep it visible, just so we're not seeing the backside of this. All right, so before we do anything else, the screen's going to be taken care of with a texture, but we do need to make it look good when we add a subsurface modifier to it. Right, because right now that looks like trash. So, shade smooth, first of all. Back in edit mode, I'm going to turn off the subdivision surface modifier in edit mode. Go into top view, and we can start adding in our control loops. So we're going to add one around there and one around there. We'll add 2 here, SZ, scale them apart vertically. That part's easy. Okay, so getting there. Now we need to get these bevels looking good. So I'm going to select that one and this one because they are loops that go all the way through. And okay, so we're going to do the offset edge loops thing again. So right click, offset edge slide, E to keep it even, something like that. Zoom in here so you can see it. Something like that. Then we can add in here, here. Again, I'm just E to keep these even. So this is a process called triple fencing. I mean, it's adding in control loops, but I recently heard the term triple fencing, and I really like it because it very accurately describes what's going on. If you've got 3 lines, you've got your actual edge, right? This is the corner, and then you've got an edge on each side, and that's going to keep it sharp, keep the geometry in place, keep the surface in place. Okay. Which is what a fence is for, is keeping things where you want them and keeping things that you don't want out. Sometimes they work. Sometimes they're pointless. In 3D, they work. All right. So we got that. Now, you need to add some edge loops. Or actually, before we do that for this inner bit, I'm gonna clean this area up. So what I'm gonna do, same thing that we did on the shelves. I'm gonna select these and merge at last. Same thing on this side. Merge at last. And then I can select these edges X and dissolve them. You can also grab this inner one, that inner one, and dissolve those edges. Okay, that looks good. Come around here and do the same thing on this side. You get lots of practice with this. Merge at last. And here. Merge at last. Select these edges and dissolve them. And get rid of that one. And that one. Okay, I'm good with those around the edges. On the underside, we could get rid of them, but it would really only reduce a couple. And I'm just going to leave it. It's not that big of a deal on the underside. But on the top side here, we're going to get enough geometry in a second that it helps to be as clean as we can. Okay, so we'll start on this one. So we're going to add in. First, I'll just grab this edge loop because it's here doing nothing, and we'll just slide it over. That works for me. And we'll slide that one down. Add one down here and up here. And up here and down here. Again, I'm trying to keep these square so everything stays nice and uniform and even. I don't like what it did just there, but those are going to go away eventually anyway, so I'm not too worried about that. And there. And make sure we hit the inside as well. Do the same thing over here. Right there. You can see how the shading adjusts as we add these edge loops. And how it helps kind of wrangle everything in. There, okay, so now we tab into edit mode, and that's looking pretty good. Actually, I'm also going to add in one there and one there. Keep that a little bit sharper. It's maybe a little softer than I'd like, but I guess from a distance it'll pick up the light nicely. Okay. So you could just leave it like this, but I'm going to do a little bit more work on kind of minimizing these edge loops because they are going all over the place, and we can reduce this geometry a little bit more. So I'll start. I guess we can start over here. It's a little bit easier to see everything on one screen. I'm going to add in one more ring of edge loops here. Yes. Add in those edge loops, and then we're going to start reducing. So we'll start here in the corner. And I'm going to grab knife tool. I'm going to add that cut right there. And once we have that, we can... Actually, I'm going to go all the way around first. I'm going to start in the corner and make sure that it turns red so you know you're on the vertex. I'm just going to go out 2. And I'm going to do all the cuts first because these edge loops run around the backside, and if I start removing, for instance, if I start removing this edge loop, you can see it actually travels through the backside all the way over here. I don't want to remove that yet. Okay. Then I'm going to grab this edge here. I'm going to move it over. GX. There we go. I'm going to move it over because I want to separate this side. Just to control my loops a little bit better. Okay, so do the same thing on these corners. This one isn't perfectly square, but that's okay. Down here. Okay. There, and hit enter. All right, so now that we have everything cut, we're going to select these edges. So what we're looking at is of the triple fence, we're selecting the 2 edges that are closest to the diagonal. And when I do that and remove them, that leaves me with 2 quads, right, and a lot less geometry. So we're going from this to this. Again, edge mode, we're going to select the 2 edge loops on both sides closest to the diagonal and dissolve that. You can see that loop runs all the way through the backside and up to the top, so now I only have to remove these 2 loops over here and these 2 loops over here. Okay. And then these 2 loops. And there we go. That's still nice and smooth, with the exception of something going on over here. Ah, I see. What I did mess up. I think I had an extra edge selected or something, so I will delete those faces, and I will select this edge here. I'm going to extrude it along the X so it's even with the corner, and then I can fill it back in accordingly. I'll extrude this down, easy, there. Fill that in, and I don't want to drag it across because it's going to grab these vertices in the back. And fill that in. Okay, that's better. The corners are maybe a little bit soft, so I could maybe go in and I'll just move it. Instead of edge sliding with double tap G, I'm just going to hit G once. just move it. Just to sharpen those corners up a little bit. That works. Probably stand to go a little bit further, but okay. Cool. So there's our keyboard and our screen. That's all we have to do for that. Now we just have the keypad. And the keypad, we'll go ahead and look at this reference again, is a pretty simple thing. I resisted the temptation to taper these edges because I don't want to take forever. We're already coming up on an hour here. So for these, it's really just first adding some edge loops to make sure that you're holding the shape, and then it's going to be a bunch of insetting and extruding. So I'm going to go in the top view here, and edit mode and wireframe here. I'm going to dissolve that. Oops. Next, dissolve that edge. I'm going to dissolve that edge. But now I just have one face. I'm going to hit R, add in 2 and scale them apart. Oops, too far. Just about there. We also need to select everything. And we need to scale it in the X direction. I want to make sure that it's going to be a little bit larger than this corner, or than the opening, so that we don't see any gaps there. Also, there's some shading that I don't love, but I think I'm just going to have to live with it for now. Just needs to be tighter. Okay. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. And 2 edge loops this way. S, Y, scale them apart. Okay, great, we got that. Now we need to kind of make all of these little areas for the edges, or for the extrusions to happen. So I'm going to we're going to go 3 across and 4 down, which means I need 2 edge loops vertically and 3 horizontally. And that's going to give me my my faces here. Now, one thing that I want to caution you is from this point you could start extruding, you can do inset and hit I and do individual. The problem with this is then you create these 8-sided poles, which is just not a great thing to do. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these edges first, Control Shift E, and somewhere in here there should be. I did the offset, it's just not working. Oh, Control Shift R, excuse me. I hit the wrong button, that's why. And that's good. Actually, no, we're not going to do that. I'm going to hit bevel. And it's going to scroll down so it's... Oh, I thought that was just going to do one, but it's not. I don't need an inner one, is what I'm trying to do. Yeah, okay, so that doesn't have an inner edge. Let me select everything and just merge by distance. Okay, so I had 36 vertices there. Something I did was not great, so... Oh, it was the extrusion that I did. When I hit Shift Control E, it did extrude. And that's why it was acting weird, so... Again, merging by distance is a good way to kind of troubleshoot. It's always my first step. Okay, so now I can select those edges from the top view and wireframe so I can see this a little bit clearer. Shift Control R. No, that's right. Sorry, I did want to bevel this because I don't need a center edge. I just need the 2 outside edges. It's just giving me these boundaries. right? Control B. Okay. So now we have those boundaries. So I have got clear edge loops in between each area. Next, I want these circles to actually be circles. So I'm going to need more than 4 edges. So I'm just going to subdivide everything. So I'm going to add an edge loop right in the center. So Control R, left click to add, right click to keep it in the center. That's all I'm doing here. Control R, left click, right click. Control R, left click, right click. Okay, so I've got all of those. We're mostly done. So I'm going to hit C to bring up my circle select. Oops, let's go into face mode first. Now we can circle select. Just click over the intersections so we get all of these. Okay. Then I'm going to inset them. And I'm going to hit I to turn off individual. It's off by default, but because I was demonstrating earlier, it was on. So I'm going to turn it off. Let's go down to about here. Right about there should be good. Okay. And now I will right click, and I have the Loop Tools add-on enabled, which remember that is in Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, Loop Tools, just make sure that's checked. Then I can right click and circle. Turn them all into circles, which is just wonderful. I'm going to inset once, just a little bit. This is just going to be my control loop for the outside to keep it sharp. And I will inset this again. Okay. I'm going to orbit my view down a little bit. We're going to extrude it down a little bit. Extrude it down again. Extrude it down one more time. And I did this 3 times because I'm just adding those control loops in there as I go instead of coming back later and adding the edge loops. It's a lot faster since I can do this all 12 at once instead of 1 at a time. All right, now I'm going to inset this a little bit. Actually, just a little bit, and that's the last control loop. We'll inset this some more. And one more time, and we'll move this down in the Z direction. Okay, I'm just going to give that a little bit of a divot there. Okay. Now we can hit Control 2 in object mode, add in our subsurface modifier, shade smooth. That's looking pretty good. The last thing that I want to do is I want to select all of these face loops. And that one. That one and that one. And then we're going to extrude it up in the Z direction first a little bit. Make sure we're in the Z. And then again, a little bit more. Not too much. And then one last time. There. Okay. And it's so thin we don't really need to put an edge loop across the top because there's not really any difference between these two. So I'm going to dissolve that edge loop that I just added. And there we go. There's our keypad. If I'm getting really picky, I'd say that I maybe made the center one a little bit too deep. But I'll leave it. That's fine. Okay, so now we need to just get it in position. First thing I'm going to do, let's see. I'm just going to grab this back vertex, which I know is centered. Okay, just back on the corner. Shift S, snap cursor to selected. Tab into object mode. Bring up my quick menu and origin to 3D cursor. Next, I'm going to grab the keypad, hold down Shift, and select the keyboard or the screen. Hit Control P to parent that, keeping the transform. So now, whenever I move the screen, the keypad follows it. Okay. And then I'm going to move it back in the Y direction. Go to side view. Just rotate that down a little bit. There we go. There is our keypad. All right, let's take a look at what else we have. Oops, that's the, there we go, this one. All right, so there's two things that I wanted to add, well, I guess three things. And I might as well cover them in this video. So we're at 1:05. Yeah, I mean, if you're made it this far, what's another 10 or 15 minutes, right? Yeah, okay. Let's get right to it. So we need to connect it. And to do that, I'm just going to go into side view, shift right click to place my 3D cursor around here. I'll actually bring it down a little bit. And shift A, add in a mesh torus. And now we need to adjust these presets. For one, we can bring the major segments down to 12. The minor segments can be 8. And let's bring that radius down, minor radius down. I'm also going to set align to view. So being in the side view over pad 3 is very helpful for this. And as long as I don't go into edit mode or click away, I still have access to this. I can move my view around. I just can't do any other actions. All right, we can bring this minor radius down some more. Actually, it's probably good, but we can bring the major radius up. That's looking better. Can move this into position. Yeah, I think that's going to work right there. So I'm going to go into edit mode. I'll select these vertices and these ones, and we can delete those. Those vertices. Let's rename this. We'll call this VM for vending machine. We'll call it screen support. Okay. And then let's try if we just slide. I'll just position this manually. Kind of rotate it. That works. Take these and we can just move these up a little bit. Okay, that works. Yeah, and I guess the last thing then for this, I'm going to E to extrude, right click Alt A or Alt S to scale along normals. Oh, okay, so there's one issue, and that's we've got this lip here that I would like to clear, but I guess we can move that after the fact. Let's I'm gonna undo that for a second. Make sure we're in side view. So there's the lip that we need to clear. Let's grab both of these, just position them. I'll do that. So I'm clearing that lip. Okay, and then I'll select these and I will extrude them up. There we go. That works. And then I think I will add one edge loop here. I'm going to E to keep it even. And this is a detail that probably nobody's ever going to see, but I will hit E to extrude, right click, Alt S. And offset even. You see that the rotation is a little bit off. Object mode, Control 2, shade smooth, and then add in our control loops. So I'll add in 2 there, 1 there, 1 there. Yeah, that works. Now this is centered. You could keep one centered, or instead I'm going to, we can do this in object mode. We'll GX, move this over roughly here. and add in our mirror modifier, and we'll move it up above subdivision surface, just because it's a good habit. And then you can see that the mirror didn't seem to work. Well, it did. It's just not the way we expected it to. That's because when I added the torus, I clicked that align to view box. I just need to hit Control A and apply the rotation. That'll snap into place where we actually want it. Okay. So we've got that. Let's see, what was the other two things? Oh, we have the base and this side panel. Okay. So first, I'm going to just select everything, all the vending machine parts, and then select the vending machine body last, so that one's highlighted in the lighter shade of orange. And I'm going to hit Control P. Oh, wait, before I do that, I want to deselect this keypad. Let's do it this way. And select everything, everything except for the keypad. And that, if I had the keypad selected when I parented it, it would override the parent of the screen. I don't want to do that. We can do that, and Control P, set object, or set parent to object, keep transform. Now wherever this goes, everything else goes. It looks like I missed a couple of pieces there. Okay, everything will follow it now. Great. I'm also going to, on this piece, you can see we've got a bunch of these triple fences all over the place. You could absolutely go in and do the same thing that we did on the screen and get rid of a lot of this extra geometry. I'm not going to do that in this video. I will probably do it off screen, but we don't need another 10 minutes of me just doing that. But I'm going to show you how to do that little access panel that I had up before. And so I'm going to apply the mirror modifier. Then I can go into edit mode. We're going to define that area, E. So I'm going to keep it even with the right side so that it stays vertical. I'll go something like that. And then, yeah, I guess we'll go with that. Okay, now we're going to grab our faces, and so I'll just use circle select. I'll grab these, and that. I think we'll go to there. And then I'm just going to hit P and separate by selection. Okay. So what I need to do first, I'll just grab the body, I'll hit number pad slash to go to local view. So we just need to add a couple more control loops so that this stays rectangular. So we'll add one here. And down here at the bottom. Then here. And here. And on the outside. Oops, I'm going to undo that one. Add it back and just make sure I hit E to keep it even. Okay, so now that stays the right shape. But what I want to do is I want to select, oops, I don't want to go into that. I want to select the opening here, just that opening edge loop. Hit E to extrude and go in the X direction just a little bit, then E to extrude in the X direction a little bit more. Okay, so that's going to give me this little ridge, and we'll do the same thing to the piece that we just split off, which is right down here called VM body. We'll rename this VM body. We'll just call this side panel. Okay. Get out of local view, grab the panel, and have an edit mode. I'll go into local view on this as well. So we've got these triple edge loops in here. We don't need them. This can dissolve all of those edges. We can start fresh. This is a really easy one. Actually, we'll add 2 at a time. Okay, because then we can scale them apart vertically. Same thing here, SX. No, sorry, not X, S, Y, because we're in the side view. Right there. Okay. Once we have that, we can grab all the outside edges. Same thing we just did. E to extrude in the X direction just a little bit, and then E to extrude in the X direction a little bit more. Okay, get out of local view. Now we can see we've got this nice little panel line there. Got a little bit of a shading thing here, and that's stretching because it's a very long face. So I'm just going to add in some edge loops there, and that's going to help minimize that. We can always add more later if we need them, but I think that looks pretty good. I'll select that, select the body, Control P, set the parent so that falls in line. Now we just have to do that base pedestal, and before we do that, I want to get the vending machine in place. So I'm going to select the body, and now that I know everything is going to go with it, we can show the rest of my scene. So we'll turn on the truss and the rivets, and turn on the collection. There we go. Here's the rest of our scene. You'll remember in my finished version of this, I actually moved the window over, so I will do that first. I will grab the window and this frame here, and I'm just going to GX and move it over, something like that. And then we can grab our wall. Because the geometry is super simple on this wall, and just select the vertices in a straight line here, and GX, and I'll just snap it right there. And there we go. Window moved. No problem. Okay, so let's grab our vending machine, grab the body, and I'm just going to G, and we'll snap it there for now, just to get it in the right plane. And then in the front view, we can kind of move it around. We'll say to there. Let's orbit around and make sure that it did actually snap to the wall. Looks like it's still off of it a little bit. So G, Y, and let's see if we can snap to this back vertex. You can see it's clipping a little bit on the backside, which tells me it's right up against the wall, which is great. I'm also reminded that I seem to have forgotten one little piece, and that's that back. So let's hide that, hide that, hide that. We'll go into front view here. Zoom out. Okay, I'm gonna snap the cursor there, add in a cube real quick. We'll rename this cube VM underscore back, and scale it down. In X, I'm gonna add a mirror modifier to this too. It's just gonna make snapping this much easier. Add in our mirror, turn on clipping, bring that up a little bit so I can see that better. Move this up, let me hide that collection and that collection just for a minute. Select everything, scaled along the Y. On the side view, I flatten that out to a good panel thickness. Move everything back in the Y. Okay. And I think that's probably a pretty good depth. I like seeing a little bit of that relief on both sides. So now let's move the top side up. Although I guess we don't want to have a gap here. So I'll select everything, GY, and snap it. That. Okay. It's good. And we'll grab these 4 vertices again, GZ, and we'll snap it up to the top there. Same thing on the bottom. Grab those 4 vertices. And GZ. This is a poorly constructed box as far as like actually being airtight or anything, but it'll look decent. And I'm really more concerned about the looks in this case than anything else. Okay, so that works. Yep, happy with that. Now we just got to get the side here. So we'll go G, X, and snap the vertex on the side. Great. Now we can go into local view on this, and we just need to add in our control loops. I'm going to be a little bit more generous with these control loops than I have been with the rest, because I want to see a little bit more of that taper. Let's add 1 in the back there. I think that's going to be good. Add 1 at the bottom. We're in the home stretch here. Okay. On object mode, hit Control 2, shade smooth. Yep, that's a panel. About as simple as it gets. Get out a local view, and we can check. Okay, so we got a nice kind of seam there. Yeah, I like how that's looking. Select that, and select the body. Control P, keep transform. Great. All right, so we can... Let's see, we'll turn the shelves back on. Turn the glass on. Turn the truss and the base collection back on. Okay, so that's in position. I'm very happy with that. Okay, and then what I did for the kind of support underneath, I just duplicated this bottom, moved it in the Z direction, and then select everything. Actually, we won't select everything. If I scale in the Z direction, you can see that the control loops here will get further apart. I don't want that. I want to keep the control loops the same distance apart. So I'll just grab this, move it up, snap it up here. This is the bottom of the bottom face. Go into wireframe, and I want to make this a little bit smaller. So I'll go move it back in the Y direction a little bit, and then we'll take these both, move it in the X direction, because this is more supposed to be a support than anything else. Then I'll select the back vertices, and I'm just going to GY and just snap them to the back wall. That looks pretty good. Yeah, that's good enough. Okay. Now I'm going to add in an edge loop here. Grab all of these, move them down, add in 1 more edge loop there. I can grab these vertices and move them back. Actually, we'll grab all of these, move them back in the Y direction. And maybe don't want to go quite so far down. Try something like that. And then I just need to select these 2 edges, add in our offset edge loops, need to keep it even. And there's our little support. I might make that a little bit more narrow from the front. Yeah. We'll do that. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, one more thing. I thought it looked a little bit funny. Oops. Wrong button. If you hit 1 when you're in object mode, it apparently turns off all the collections except for the first one, which is super annoying when you do it accidentally all the time. Right, front view. I'm going to grab these, move it in on the x-axis. That's better. That's better. Also looks like this needs to come up a little bit. Oh, maybe not. Okay, cool. So there's the vending machine. I'll just rename this VM support. All right, and that's that after an hour and 25 for this one. So 2.5 hours to make this vending machine. At least 2.5 hours to make it with me explaining everything that I'm doing. But that's fine. Hopefully you get some good tips on there on edge flow. I will almost certainly go back through this and get rid of all the extra edges going on here that I don't need. Because there's just a lot of extra stuff that we don't need, and when we have a subdivision surface modifier on it, it's going to add even more edges. So wouldn't hurt to clean that up, but you don't need to see me do that. Yeah, and then the next video, which I will at this point won't be up at the same time as these first two, we will move into all of this stuff, kind of how I did it. It's actually pretty simple. It's just kind of repeating the same 2 or 3 steps. It's really more of a function of the time you put into it than it is any particular skill. But we're getting real close to finishing the modeling on this, and then we'll get into materials and textures very shortly here. See you next time.